Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? It's that time of the year again where it's all eyes on Mordor as Brendan Rodgers and the boys travel to Mount Doom to take on the hordes of orcs that await them. We're here for the SCSC Supporters Club tonight, the CSC, to have a wee preview of the game. We'll also catch up on everything that's been happening this week as well, because we've had lots of transfer stuff, obviously the match itself midweek and a few other bits and pieces. I am Quinny, and I'm joined as always by my co-pilot here, my partner in crime, McBrideACE. McBride, good to see you, my man. Hail, hail.
Hello, hail, hail. It's not a good week to be on, is it? Anyway, we've got some games and stuff coming up, but roller coaster of a week, but sure we'll get through it all and dissect it all and probably get back to some stuff we were talking about before as well, before the Champions League qualifiers. So there we go.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for a week, to put it kindly, because the game is early kickoff on the Tuesday. I did a big kind of breakdown video on the kind of whole 360 of it, everything from the pitch to the dugout to the boardroom and back again into the transfer window. And there's been so much to go on just with even the aftermath of the game, never mind, having a laugh at them last night. We get some transfer developments and a few different bits and pieces as well. So yeah, man, it's been a long week for like 2 days. It feels like it's been like 7 or 8, But it's the first time I managed to catch up with you proper since Tuesday. So thoughts and feelings, man. How are you coming out of the game?
2 of the worst games of football I think I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. But I mean, we talked about it before the qualifiers as well, didn't we? We were talking about being underprepared and getting guys in and these big sagas, guys like Balikwisha that's been going on for donkeys, and why are we bursting into action now after these games? And it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just baffling, really, like how we just continue to operate like that all the time, getting into these qualifiers, So yeah, pretty crap, to be honest. But yeah, I was kind of thinking about it earlier, and so I think the board is largely to blame because of the investment in the policy. So like we were talking about, like you sell Nicholas Kuhn and then you just don't replace him at all. It's like, what type of model is that? Like that's not a model. Like just selling your best players, not actually replacing. And then over and above that, because we've talked about all that stuff, so I don't think any of that stuff's really new. I'm a bit kind of disappointed in the management team and just the players as well. You're good at the tactics, Quinny, right? But when you see this stuff and you've got a manager talking about, I really need wingers. Like I just didn't get the point of the way we actually played. So we played that system where we keep the ball, and like the whole point is to keep a hold of the ball and try and get the ball out to the wingers. And it's probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a footballer, Yang. I mean, he was just terrible. And like I don't get it at times. Like, why do we have to always play that exact system, that boring, predictable sort of nonsense? Do you know what I mean? Like, just mix it up, do something different. You didn't think Engels would start when he did come on. Thought there was a wee bit more energy. I thought he would have started, but yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it's a bit unfair, obviously, on James Forrest, but like, I think a guy had his testimonial like 2.5 years ago or something like this. He said we're still relying on Champions League qualifiers, and you think back to all those years ago where we were relying on Near Beaton at centre half and we never signed, and all flashbacks. But I was pretty disappointed in Brendan Rodgers as well. I think that actually he's contributed in a way to some of this as well. Like you've seen that stuff like that guy's a club signing, and we've not brought in any strikers. And imagine you're like Shin Yamada and you come in, you're like, yeah, I'm signing for Celtic and this is my big move, and and the manager's on the we're not signing any strikers, and all the toxic stuff. Do you know what I mean? So we ended it with a bit of a, okay, this is a good draw for us, but nobody was really like overly confident. And then I mean, like, just it's a weird feeling. I mean, like, I seen the thing earlier about IDAH potentially going, and I nearly celebrated. I was just so happy about that, because like I looked watching the game when he went up for that penalty, I thought he's going to miss this penalty. There was 2 people in the room with me. I said, and one of them got back and said I was going to say that as well, and you just knew that he was going to miss it. And then Dyson missed the last one. He didn't even really look that disappointed. It was just I don't know. It was a weird night. I don't know how you feel, but it was like deja vu. And then an interview after the game. So I'm not going to watch the interview. I'll watch a bit of the interview, And then Rodgers, after coming out saying no excuses, started talking about the pitch. So fuck off, honestly. Don't seriously, like you've spent the whole lead up trying to say there's not going to be any excuses, and one of the first things he started talking about was the pitch. Why don't you actually take some responsibility yourself? You've got all right, we need players in, but Celtic should still be beating Kyrat over 2 games. Why don't you change your tactics? You're the manager. Why don't you change your tactics? Why don't you do something different? Why don't we just not be watching this boring absolute shit for 180 or how many minutes that we watch, just actual boring, like total nonsense? Do something different. So I kind of felt as if I was pretty like angry about the preparation, but then also I felt this kind of feeling of, well, you can't just say that look, other people are blameless in that as well. And then I get cheered up last night, so so it's like, so I have a whole day going, I need to be cheered up. 5 minutes past 8, I was back a wee bit more cheered up, but it's just not a good week, is it, at all? So
No, and I'm with you because it was like no excuses coming into the game. You know, that was his words. You know, that no one's inferring anything there or misquoting or ad libbing. And yeah, like I say, even when I done the breakdown, it does start on the pitch. You know, the game was there to be won in both legs. Dyson's get 2 1-on-1s that any version of Dyson Maida we've seen over the last 4 years finishes one of them. Maybe not both of them, right? We've seen him miss them before, right? It's not new, but both of them have been missed. It's just like, come on, man. Like, what is even happening now at this point? And I never really thought about the whole, like, the part you added in there, of course, about identifying to us publicly, like club signing and the kind of knock-on effect of that. It's not really something I kind of thought about. I think it's very valid, because, yeah, people might need translators, but they're not dumb, and yeah, so I get that point. Actually, that's probably quite a good one. But you mentioned about Engels as well. I was thinking about you when it happened. But when Engels came on, we changed the shape, in a weird way. And then when Murray came on, it kind of emphasised it even further how the shape had changed. Again, I did a bit of I went right into it on the breakdown after the match if anyone wants to check it out. But we went into like a 3-box-3 kind of formation almost, and I kind of, when you look at it and you kind of take a step back, it's kind of the only way to play the best 11 players in the squad, in a kind of funky way. And it did work, but, because we actually looked a bit better at those stages when Engels was on, because McGregor got off the leash a wee bit. Those were the spells in the match where he kind of was, trying to make up for that blooming pass back, in the 50th minute or whatever it was. So I was really frustrated when I was kind of doing the breakdown, and I kind of, you kind of seen it at the time, so I was doing a watch along with everyone and we were tracking it throughout the game. But it's like, if you have this up your sleeve, he didn't do that to the 70th minute, half time, 60th, 70th minute. It just felt, I don't know, like you say, it just felt dead, like grey, didn't it? It just felt very weak, very kind of half baked. And yeah, there's blame to go everywhere, but it definitely starts on the pitch because the game was there to be won, really.
Yeah, I mean, they played, obviously, they were always playing to keep themselves in the tie, so you've got that, obviously, but honestly, I've seen more exciting paint dry. Like, that was how bad it was. But the thing is, it played out in the pitch about all the things we were saying, and I do get, like, obviously, we were kind of behind Brendan when he was saying stuff about he needed players in. I think everybody was fully supportive of that, but it does create this sort of atmosphere of this toxic atmosphere. And the way I feel about it just now is we've got another 12 months of this shit ahead of us. That's the way I feel about it. And like, I do get that we could still maybe have a healthy lead and stuff soon, but this is just going to be this way. And I don't see any real way that the manager's going to be extending now. Like, I think he makes all these statements about the club, about saying where we want to be and all that sort of stuff. And I get that might come from a good place, because I think he does want Celtic to do well, but then just creates this atmosphere where you've got this dysfunction between the manager's obviously signing players, and then the club. And then also, and I'm not in any way like defending the board or whatever, but look, when you look at the actual signings we did make last season, and Engels a lot of times can't get in the team. Trusty doesn't really play at the moment, and Adam Ida's about to be sold. you can kind of half understand why they don't want to give him £10 million to buy a player. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, you look at like sort of Jacob Bream, and we know that he's a good player, and you think, why don't you just go and sign him for £5 million? And just didn't happen before the games. And was it this, like, maybe we felt as if we could get through that tie, we could push the boat out a wee bit because we'd be able to commit a bit more. But even like, Brendan wasn't happy about that. You could have just done the Balikwisha deal a couple of weeks ago, or the point where Bream was left out, go and do the deal. Do you want an extra million? Just pay the extra million. I mean, I just don't get it. The other really shocking stat I seen the other day, right, is like, so this whole statement about, yeah, but we need the money there in case there's a rainy day and so that we don't sell our best players. Well, that's a load of shit, because every year we sell our best players, right? So we know that's a load of rubbish. And in the COVID season, which was one of the worst events we've seen, barring some sort of world war or something, that was about the worst we've seen. We lost £5 million. So why do we need £80 million in the bank for a rainy day? I mean, like, you were talking about maybe the players not speaking English and not being stupid. Do the board actually think that we're stupid? And yeah. I think there's been a bit of a change as well, because I'm not going to name any names in terms of people I know, but I've actually spoken to 3 or 4 people, and they're like, I'm not getting the package for the Europa. I'm not going. So, like, it is a problem. Do you know what I mean? Because what the board want us to have done the IDAH partnership. They want people to buy into that. I don't think the strips were that good. So there's, obviously there's a bit of an issue there, but they really, like, they want it all to be moved forward from a commercial point of view, but they're not doing anything to give the fans any real excitement for want to go to those games, spending money, pushing the boat out for the 3rd strip or the 4th strip, or the trainers with the Celtic. Like, if you're going to go to those lands and keep spending your money, you just want a wee bit of something back. And like, they've just not really given us anything. The communication is non-existent. So that guy Nicholson or whatever, has he ever talked to anybody at all? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just feels as if we've been really successful. We've got loads of money in the bank, but we're still in some sort of turmoil, which, like, I think, like, outsiders looking at it going, yeah, Celtic are one of the best run clubs in Europe and stuff like that, but, like, actually, are we? Like, if you gave that money that we had to, like, Tony Bloom or Bruges or whatever, like you would just be embarrassed by how well they would actually do with that compared to what we're doing with it. So yeah, it's a bit sad this week, to be honest. I feel a bit deflated by it because, yeah, I mean, there's a draw on tomorrow and stuff, and I don't really care. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I just don't really care who we get in the draw tomorrow. Like, that's the way I feel about it now. So
yeah, it's a sad kind of state for it all. I was just thinking there as you were talking, like, I totally agree with basically everything you said there. And like, Celtic are like a prison, they don't treat the fans like customers, they treat them like prisoners, if you know what I mean, where it's like, you're here whether you like it or no, and you're just going to need to deal with it. Here's your slop for lunch. This is just what we're doing. Deal with it. We're going to, just run it our way, sort of thing. And in terms of the Europa League thing, again, like, I'm totally behind all that. There's a lot of support for it in the chat as well. If you haven't done so already, by the way, guys, please smash the like button. It goes a long way to supporting the channel if you've not done so already. And also, you'll find in the description of the video a link to the Substack. On the Substack, you get all the videos without any adverts or anything like that. And of course, you get access to all the CeltsAreHere articles and all the kind of insider scoops and all the breaking kind of exclusives and everything that we break here across all the platforms, which is fantastic. So support the channel in any way you can. Of course, hit the like button, or feel free to dive onto the Substack for some extra bits and bobs as well. But the only way I would go to Europa League, the only way I would pay for Europa League tickets, number one, because I do need to make a distinction. The only way I would pay for Europa League tickets is if somebody gets sacked. Like, we need to get, when the transfer window closes, which me and you double checked before coming on today, is Monday, I think, isn't it? The 1st of September, 11 p.m. After that, like, statement and somebody's head's got to roll, in terms of a job, because, I was hoping, and you'll remember me saying this, like, the taste of the money from last year, I was really hoping that we could use their greed against them, and they would be like, oh, we like that. Let's spend 10 million on free guys, or 2 guys or whatever, you know, let's get in, let's make sure we get in, let's not take any chances. And then you do that often enough, eventually we get a good team, whether they planned it or not, succeeding by accident almost. And if they were, but they try and act like they're better, and we're saving money, we're running like a proper football club, and you know, all that kind of stuff. If they're actual like full-blooded capitalists, the way they try and act like they are, and it's all about dividends and shares and company value and bank balance, and someone's got to get bagged for that. You know, no other company in the world would you let, in essence, a $50 million contract slip through your fingers, or 50 million cash injection just slip through your fingers, and someone isn't getting absolutely battered for that, you know, losing their job and reputational damage and all the rest of it. So, and you know, for me, I say to go to Europa League, that's number one. You need to get a statement out of them. Somebody's head needs to roll. And number two, I seen today Aston Villa announced their Europa League packages, and they are like cheap as chips, you know. And that's the way they should be looking at this as well. Is like, they're not making money. You know, they should be basically giving tickets away, especially to season ticket holders. But obviously, if any go on general sale, I don't expect them to be priced, you know, like Champions League tickets or anything close to it, you know. So that's the only way I would be spending money on them. Now, there is a slight possibility I get them for free, because maybe they get given to us for, you know, like press conferences or whatever. So I'll just be kind of toeing the line with whatever we do here. If we go for press conferences and that kind of thing, fine. But yeah, so that's just, I just wanted to say that. So that's how I feel about it. I don't really care about the draw, like you say as well. But it's Celtic in Europe, man, and I know even though it'll be on the TV, you know, there's no way you don't, when the games roll around and those autumn nights, and fair enough, it's a Thursday, it's going to be a wee bit different, but you all just kind of get a wee bit up for it when we got some decent matches and stuff like that, I suppose. But yeah, so that's my kind of 2 cents on that part of it.
I think we've got to see how this window finishes as well. As you said, like, you know, there's got to be some action. I'll be pleased if Ida goes. I mean, I think like we overpaid for him. I think he looks quite low in confidence. I think like this price tag thing's affected him. Rodgers tried to make him into the main strike. It's just not good enough. You know, like, let's be simple about it. Like, we need somebody that's good at football, and he's not. Just so, see if Swansea bid 5.5 million, there'll be a big queue in the chat. I'll be at the front of the queue to drive him down to Swansea, right? I just don't think he's actually good enough. So the worry, though, I guess, is that, like, you know, we don't really seem to get an actual transfer deal done ever. But at least we've got a deadline now, because, you know, if we've got a deadline, then maybe we'll actually get it done. But with the Europa League thing, I just think there's I just don't. So one thing I really watch a lot and love in sport is the Masters, right? And the Masters is like, it's really expensive to get in and it's exclusive, but they've got this thing where the prices and all the food and everything have remained the same forever. And once you're there, you know, you just enjoy the experience, but it's quite exclusive and people spend loads of money on it. Celtic is kind of like the opposite, right? So Celtic have got a big sort of waiting list and everything, and then they've just started treating customers with disdain. It's like, how many ships can we sell? It's a Coke is £4. You know, you can get a Coke Zero bottle for like 90p or whatever, and they run out, they're pouring Coke it and then serving you and charging you £3 more. And it's just, honestly, there's just, like, you don't ever feel as if you're getting anything back at all. Do you know what I mean? Even like with the season tickets. So I've not got one at the moment. Family got the season tickets. So you used to always get like the first friendly or the first, you know, the first cup game, you would get something included. Now all that's been stripped out, and it's all, we're playing this glamour friendly against Newcastle, and let's give us more money. And see, all that stuff, all of that would actually be fine if they would actually back that up by going buying good players for the team. But we're just hoarding money. So do they think we're stupid? It's a public limited company. The accounts are there. I think at one point we paid £6 or £7 million in corporation tax because we made up. What is the point in that? What is the point in us generating profit and paying corporation tax? That money should be reinvested back into the club. It's a football club. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a profit-making organisation. It started for, you know, like charity.
It's not a savings account.
Aye, exactly. It's a football club, and like, you know, there'll be a lot of clubs that would just absolutely bite your hand off to have that type of balance, to go and try and do what they wanted to do with that money, where they just don't have the finances, they're restricted, or just can't do it. Yet we've got all this money and we don't want to actually spend it on our own club. So there's a problem there. I mean, everybody's obviously getting wind of what the problem is because of this thing with Big DD, and he's got to authorise certain things or whatever. But as you say, the structure of the club's got to change. If that is the case, he's got to look at that and go, I'm going to have to actually appoint somebody who sets out a budget, or the budget's set, and you say you can spend, you've got this transfer budget, you've got this wage budget over the next couple of years. Person works with that, they go and identify players, they buy them, they come in, that's it. There's loads of teams that can just go out and say, we're just going to go and buy somebody, and we try and buy somebody. By the time we buy them, they've aged a year. It's like, honestly, it's really frustrating for the fans, and there's just feel as if you've lost all that kind of excitement and stuff now, because Balikwisha could have been done 2 weeks ago. He could easily have been done 2 weeks ago, and you're not going to tell me that him instead of Yang could have been a difference maker for those 2 games, and he would have been 4 or 5 million, and then obviously you would have got that money in, and you would have been and now you're going to end up buying him anyway. Like, it's totally mind-boggling stuff. And then obviously we've got this model, and obviously there's always transfer risk, and it sometimes does go wrong at other clubs as well. I remember years ago Ajax sold a couple of guys for 60, 80 million each, and then they decided they were going to push the boat out and buy guys for 20 million, and they had some success. I think they got Haller, and he was absolutely brilliant, but they bought some guys and they increased the wage bill. A few of them were just tripe, and basically they got themselves into bother and stuff like that. So I do get that sometimes if you go a bit daft, you can have issues, but we're a million miles away from those issues just now. You could budget for, you could go on for 4 or 5 years or something and still not be in any sort of concern about it. And if you could even get to the point where you say, well, why don't we have a bit of concern now, do like what every other business does and take in a bit of investment and just, take some finance if you really needed to. But we're 80 million north of that, and we can't actually get somebody better than Yang and James Forrest to start in a huge qualifier for that game. And you hit the nail on the head. Any business, anything, any commercial organisation that allowed like that possibility to happen against somebody that's 300th ranked team or whatever, it should not be an actual option to get beat by that team. And we just left ourselves in a weak position where we just couldn't score any goals.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I was trying to keep up with the chat as well, and I was going to say something right off the back of what you said there, but I've just kind of got them all kind of jumbled up in my head there. Apologies. But yeah, so a lot of support in the chat for a lot of stuff that we're saying in terms of everything that's kind of been swimming around the back of this. What was it? It was kind of coming back to me there, but it's faded away. I'm sorry.
I said about 5 rants in the same rant there. No,
that's fine, man. I'll tell you what, this will jog my memory anyway, but I put on screen, just in case anyone didn't see the match breakdown I did the other day. This is the shape. It was only for 5 minutes until Tierney came off for Murray, and then you can imagine how it changed ever so slightly. But I was really annoyed because if the manager and the coaching staff had this up their sleeve, like, surely this is better than starting with Ralston and Yang halfway through a tie when there's no excuses and we're going to get there and all the rest of it. So that, laying that out and seeing how we actually developed in the game and how we actually created some differences in the dying embers of it, it's interesting and infuriating all at the same time, because it's like if you can do that, then why haven't we tried that before? So just thought I'd pop that up. People are chatting about IDAH as well, saying that actually Swansea have just came out and poo-pooed it or whatever. I had a quote that came out from the manager's press conference saying that he knows IDAH and all the rest of it. And it even went on to suggest maybe Darren O'Day had an involvement in it because he's at Swansea now as well, which I didn't really realise at the time. But Adam IDAH, I think, that's what I was going to come back. That's, for me, the number one most, he's a Rangers player now, right? So whatever, right? And he made a good impact for them on his debut. We'll see how it goes with them because they look like absolute crap. You've been watching the McBride, you know much better than I, right? But Oliver Antman is a right winger, and he actually fits all the Celtic criteria. He was like 1.8 million or something like that, or 2.1 million. He was cheap as chips. and was, you know, on paper not too dissimilar to Bream, who we were interested but wouldn't spend 5 or 6 million on. So I just found that maddening at the time. And then number two, to flip that, if we go and pay Hammarby, this guy might be all right. He kind of looks the part in some of his highlights or whatever, but Sweden, it's always funny to gauge those players, I find. If we end up paying them that kind of money, you know, for someone from the Swedish league, and, you know, fair enough, he might actually be a better player. I'm not really in a position to say either way on that one. But it just feels so backward that we would spend 5 million euros in the Swedish league, but we wouldn't spend 5 million in the Dutch league for Stengs or Bream. You know, Stengs has went to Pisa today, so we've maybe dodged a bullet on that. If that's where he's ended up, is maybe, you know, there's more than what is publicly available to know about him, perhaps. So, fine, can move on from that, no bother. But Bream's maybe a wee bit different because you do see him as a player that should jump off the page, and if you're interested in him, just bloody buy him. You know what I mean? Like, why hook about?
Yeah, it's all this dilly-dally and stuff. I mean, like, so obviously you were talking about, you know, the game last night and things, and what I found really interesting was just looking at like the kind of approach of like Club Brugge, right? So obviously a goalkeeper, 3 of the back 4 actually come through the youth academy, so it's like fair dues. And then Orks never played, but he's going to be going on a sort of, he's going to be moved on, and he's a guy they bought for a few million who they're going to move on. Then you start going further forward, you get Vanaken and stuff like that. He's kind of like their Callum McGregor, only, you know, he does more damage going forward and stuff like that. Then you've got other guys. So they bought Stankovic in to replace Jashari. So they got him in before he'd even left. And then they'd Forbes. So Forbes was 6 million, right? He's a guy we've been linked with before. Remember, we were linked with him when he was at Man City. He was 6 million, and he looked significantly better than any of our wingers. And then they'd Trizoldi up front, who was like 4 million euros or something. He scored the first goal. Tzolis is a superstar now. I mean, he's an absolutely insane player, but he did only arrive for a few million. So obviously they've picked up a really good one there, and he'll be the next big one that goes. So then later on in the game, they brought off Tzolis, and they brought on Diakon, who was a guy who was playing in France. So he was like 8 million euros, maybe that's at £6 million or something. Looks really good, quick, could beat a man, drop a shoulder, looks really dangerous. It's like what kind of supercomputer have these teams got that we don't have? You know, like maybe we've if Darren Days at Swansea, he's taken that computer program that we've been dealing with to sign players. Like let's do all the filtering. I've got those good stats. So look at this, the X and the Y axis, and then we'll buy the guy that's Irish. That's what all we'll do. We'll buy the guy. Pick him out. You know, it's like the filters. Nationality, Irish, yes. James McCarthy, IDAH, get him in. Like, honestly, like they're signing guys like from like France League 2 and stuff like that, right? And they're just like athletic, and they can play football, and they're just like the profile of the guys they buy, it's just really good. I mean, it's like, but like in this day and age, I think we can actually do better than that, honestly. But I mean, Club Brugge there are they don't have as big a stadium as Celtic. They never won the league last season. Tony Bloom's team beat them. They don't have as much money as Celtic, but they've been in 7 out of the last 8 Champions Leagues. So surely somewhere somebody's got to look at this and go, what the fuck is going on here? Like, how can these teams operate like that and, you know, have successful models and buy players and all that sort of stuff, and we're still buying Yang from K-League 2 and, you know, Kwon, like nobody, like, you know, obviously, yeah, ended up in like France League 1 or whatever. But I mean, I just, yeah, we're still trying to act like we are Tony Bloom and we're moneyballing and stuff like that. But we're at the stage where you've already moneyballed and the money is actually in the bank. You don't have to actually moneyball at this point. What you've got to do is identify somebody that you can bring in that's at a good level, but actually could still be like, you know, worth more. So, you know, you could get somebody like that Bruges bought. I mean, that guy Forbes, I can't believe he was only 6 million. Like he's really good. He's nippy and, you know,
Trizoldi.
And Trizoldi, but Trizoldi's not even first choice. So they're bringing on guys like that who are not even first choice. They've got like the guy in the building. So if like somebody comes for Vermont, you see that goal he scored against Rangers at Ibrox, somebody comes in for Vermont and says, oh, this guy's absolutely sensational, his data's brilliant. we'll give you 15, 20 million for him. They've already got Trizoldi there, and then they just bring in somebody as a backup to Trizoldi. But we're skating about here saying we've not even still replaced Nicholas Keane. It's mind-boggling to have all that money and stuff, and just there has to be change at the club. Like, you know, we're laughing about Darnady and all that sort of stuff there, but you know, all the guys who come in for key positions in the club are all ex-players and stuff. We need to start acting like, okay, we're buying these young guys in. What do we need? Do we need sports science? We need somebody that's good at doing the psychology side of things. We need somebody that's good at the pathway or the management or whatever. And then you get the person that's got the skills to do that. You don't say who used to work for Celtic or who used to play for Celtic or who's Irish that we can go and get, or who's pals with Dermot Desmond that's got those skills. What you do is you have like a process of getting people in that are actually good at those things, and then all of a sudden you become like a club that's world class. Because Nicholson, he said that thing about, you know, we'll be a world class in all respects, and then he just looks like a bit of egg in his face from that point of view, doesn't he? Like, just looks like complete and utter garbage now. And we've had loads of success. So we've won loads of things. And last season, the Champions League was a bit better and stuff. But then we just fallen back into like embarrassment in the transfer market. Fans are embarrassed that we can't sign anybody. They're embarrassed by the reports that we're trying to lowball, and the performances, you have to say, have been embarrassing as well. So,
for sure. And I think, you know, what you've said there kind of takes us on quite nicely, I suppose, to the main thing we've got to wrestle with this weekend, because the Adamida thing coming into this tonight, like you said, not even replacing people. If he was to leave at this stage, like, the strikers would be Shin, Kenny and Osmond, right? Which it's probably going to be Dyson. I think we would know that at this point, right? But
yeah,
it's Finn, you know, to say the least. You know,
I don't care. I would just sell him. See, even if we were just left with Shin Yamada up front and Kenny, I think I would still sell him, because I think it's gone. I just don't think that actually there's any chance that he's going to be a big success here now. Because firstly, he's not getting any better, right? So sometimes what people say or I say or whatever, and I said about Yang, so obviously I need to apologise to everybody on CeltsAreHere because he's garbage, right? But he doesn't look as if he's actually developing his game. You remember when Matt O'Reilly, and he was kind of in and out, and it was like he wasn't always playing. You had Moy there, and he was even kind of Ange was a bit standoffish, and then you had the situation when new manager come in. He looked as if he was buzzing in the first interview, and then he was just looked as if he just came on leaps and bounds. Like, I'm not seeing any evidence of any of that with really anybody at the moment. Engels doesn't really look as if he's improved and stuff like that. So I think the problem we do is that it's like the Mikey Johnson problem, right? Everybody had it in for Mikey Johnson. He was a Scottish guy. Nobody really rated him. And he could have been in good form and he would still get pelters. And that was the reality of it. And see, no matter what Adamida does now, everybody's decided that he's not as good as 9 million. And he's just going to get pelters for a long time. So I think, like, I'd rather we just go and sign Vardy or something and just get 5 million back for him and just said, all right, we'll just sign Vardy. So I'm not saying that's a good move, but I just think that, like, actually, I just don't really want to watch him in a Celtic shirt. I just don't like it. Just baffles me sometimes what he's supposed to actually be doing. Just don't get it. So I would let him go. I know you're a bit light in the ground, but we've got a couple of days. And what happens is a lot of guys become available at this point because other moves happen. And, you know, sometimes things come up, and let's say a thing forward, come on, Newcastle are signing that Walton made, and there's not been any mention of it whatsoever. They've just went and identified somebody, got a deal done. That's it. You know, the guy's coming. So we've got a couple of days, we've got a deadline, spring into action, sign somebody. You know, we must have lists and scouting and stuff there. Like, you know, just go and do something.
Yeah, agreed. The chat is very much turning into Spartacus. I am also with McBrideACE. I also agree with McBrideACE the whole way through it. So good to see, guys.
Because I'm not drunk tonight, I'm only on the Sprite tonight. I was leave the beers.
Love this shout from Stephen Kennedy. Put Scales up front. We'd definitely score more goals than IDAH. I don't think there's any denying that at this point. And I do agree with SSM here, but I'm still on the record as saying 9 million is too much. You could buy a lot more strikers for 9 million than Adam Idah, you know. So that was the only caveat I always gave. 9 million is too much. But yeah, I definitely think the board should have just done the signing when he did, you know, show that he, in theory, could be the Celtic striker. Obviously, we've seen in reality that wasn't the case, but I was definitely on the bandwagon as well for just get the job done. And it's more for the urgency because we know how bad Celtic are at business. So it's just like that guy works. He just scored against them or whatever, you know. So like just bring him in and then we can move on to other stuff that needed done at the time, you know, because we still hadn't replaced Jota at that point. I think also don't think Nicholas Kuhn was anyone's favourite at the time either.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. Thinking about IDAH and everything around it, you know, I kind of think when I seen Shin, obviously we're kind of keeping Kenny around, but Shin and Osmond coming in, it did feel that IDAH was kind of like the odd striker out because if we were to sign someone else in, it's then like, what is IDAH's situation? Because these guys are obviously meant to grow and improve and get better. And then if we were to sign someone else, you'd think they're the guy to replace Kyogo, lead the line. So it feels like the kind of forward department has kind of been built around him, or not around him, but regardless of him. Anyway, you know, which is a weird kind of thing to notice, I think, as well. But if IDAH was to leave, I think like the number one thing to do is just go buy more wingers. Say Dyson's a striker now, and just have these three guys in and behind and just go and get 4 wingers, you know, or whatever. We do have Jota, obviously, to think about. He's worth considering. I still don't mind thinking about Yang and Forrest as one person in the squad, if you get me. Like, I still really don't mind that. If Forrest is like number 2 to somebody and Yang is like winger 6 or something, I can deal with that. I don't mind that, really. Apparently, he's going to Birmingham as well. Apparently, they're interested, so maybe he leaves, so whatever. But play Maeda through the middle and just go buy wingers, since we should have scouted 1,000 of them by now anyway, you know. And let's just stop the messing about trying to kid on Maeda's not a striker.
Well, obviously we get money back for Tellio as well, right? So, you know, he never really played, and yeah, it's that embarrassing situation. We said we're not going to let him go, and he wasn't even in the squads. Like, well, why are we not even letting him go? So, you know, I think with Yang, like, you know, it was just one of the worst performances I've really like seen, and like obviously not just him, right? Because like, I thought he was really poor. Like, I thought he was just really, really bad. I mean, I looked at his stats and stuff like that, and the game, and just he was just like his ratings and stuff like that. I'm sure
we were counting it in the live chat, right? Just to add this in, we were counting it in the live chat for the watch along we were doing. There was like 3 good moments he had, but he had like 5 bad moments.
Yeah.
So it's like net bad. So fine. But I thought it was funny you brought him up. That was all.
Let's just be matter of fact, right?
Sure.
He had 3 dribble attempts and one of them was successful. He touched the ball 40 times. His pass success rate was 61%, 14 out of 23. He had 1 accurate long ball. He had 11 ground duels. He won 3 of them. He had 4 aerial duels. He won 0. And he gave the ball away 20 times. Now, I'm sorry, but that is utter shit, right? So that is just, that's just really, really, really poor. Now, I was one of the guys who thought, like, you know, like, yeah, he was improving and stuff like that, but he's one of these guys like maybe Haksabanovic in the past where he would come in, he would do well, and you say he deserves a chance, and then you give him the chance, and then he doesn't really do anything at all. So
yeah,
I agree with you. You're going to need some backup there, and if, like, you know, if he goes back to being the supporting role, and you can put him on at 3-0 up, and he can come on and contribute something and all that sort of stuff, then you don't need to clear him out. But I think like it just doesn't look as if he's really getting any better. And you know, I feel bad talking about James Forrest as well, but I thought he was pretty poor over those 2 games as well. And it's probably just the fact that like age is catching up with him, and he's not got that kind of burst of pace or whatever anymore. But not just them. I mean, Nygren was pretty poor the other night. I thought it was probably his worst game since he's come to Celtic. I didn't think he played very well either. And, you know, over the course of 2 legs, Dyson's been through and goal twice, and he's not scored either of them. The one over there was just like gilt edged. You've got to score, and then he's like something no right there. And it might just be a confidence thing, because again, I looked at the stats and he's not down tools or whatever. He was chasing back to left back when he was left wing. He's he was like tackling and winning duels, not. So he is trying, but obviously it's just not happening at the moment. But the problem there is that there's nobody actually helping him. There's no Nicholas Kuhn chipping in with goals and assists. That it's just he's the only guy that you've got to rely on, because has he scored a goal this season? I don't know if he even scored a goal or whatever. No. So he's not scored a goal yet. So basically everybody's now looking at Maeda and saying, oh, it's his fault he missed that chance or whatever, but everybody else has done absolutely hee-haw. So nobody's done anything to help him. That's the kind of problem. So I thought Kobe Donovan looked quite good. You were talking about him before, and when he came on, I thought he looked quite handy. I thought he looked quite good. As did Damon.
I'm talking about transfers. We're expecting Sriracha to come in to be the backup left back. Inamura has been listed on the available for loan list, which kind of broke out earlier today, just to kind of slide that in there. And I am of the opinion, being in the Europa League, we're probably going to play Ralston and Donovan. I think if we were going to go Champions League, you've probably seen the link that we had to the Galatasaray lad. I think if we were getting into the Champions League, we would have probably bought him, because if AJ is out for 3 months, that's like 3 or 4 Champions League games potentially, So
yeah,
I could see them spending money to cover that, but not the Europa League. I think they'll probably try and give Donovan the space to grow maybe in this opportunity that's around, and then maybe loan him out in January, or in the freedom movements agreement things we've got, maybe deal with that later in the season. I think they really rate him. I like him. I've liked him every time I've seen him, and I think he came into it quite nicely. In terms of what you're saying there from Maeda, I totally agree. Like, in terms of the team and how the output is, Maeda's not a guy that is like I described Negren doing the weekend, is grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. Like, Negren starts moves, finishes moves, goes over the pitch, wins the ball, gives and goes. Maeda can try and do stuff like that, but he doesn't actually do it. He's a guy that plays good in a good team, and that maybe sounds. You can describe players like that, and there's been players described like that that's maybe borderline a negative or whatever. It's just reality with Dyson. Like, he's just not good enough to carry a team. He's just not that guy. He's not the talisman, the leader, as it were. But you put 2 or 3 guys around him that get a good instinct, get a good kind of threat, kind of awareness and eye for goal and all the rest of it, and he'll sync up lovely, as we've seen. So I think he needs people around him just to, like a band, like he's just standing there playing guitar by himself, and he needs a drummer and, a singer and a few other guys to go with him, to actually get a tune going, So that's how I kind of see it in that sense. I think all this makes it really difficult coming into the weekend. I've got no idea. Like, the defense, Ralston's going to play over Donovan, isn't he? We don't see anything funny there. We all seen that people were sharing it on Twitter. Looked at Ralston was popping pain pills through the Kairat game, so maybe there's a 10% chance of something crazy happening. Vickers obviously had one of his worst games in a Celtic shirt. I think his kind of invulnerability from Celtic fans has kind of faded away. He's kind of come in for some criticism recently. I don't think he would be rotated coming into this, but he does really like Dane Murray. I don't think Simpson Pussy would come in from out the cold. And then Amura been on the loan list. Tierney played as usual 70 minutes or whatever. I don't think the defence is in much discussion. Midfield we'll get to in a second. But I've got no idea what the hell's going to go on up front at the weekend. Like, with wings, with anything. Like, I'm clueless.
Right, so I thought Dane Murray did look good. Tierney's got to start. I mean, I'm not going to criticise him too much, but I think it's kind of reality that he's not maybe quite the player that I thought he was going to be. He's kind of sitting in a wee bit, but
he's played still more, mate, in the last month than he has in the last year combined or whatever. He's he's been in the deep end swimming by himself for us. I did say it'd be a medical if he played at the weekend, didn't I? And he didn't come off the bench. I could just feel it.
I kind of hope he does like that McGregor thing, and he just realises he can't play all games and just says, I'm not going to play for Scotland anymore, and just admits that his body's kind of given up a bit. But anyway, like that, I think that'll be the back line. I agree with you. Obviously, McGregor's in there. I think it's going to be interesting, like what we're going to be facing up against as well. So I have been taking more of an interest in the banter years and all that sort of stuff, and apparently, like, Raskin's future and everything's in doubt, so that's why he's not been playing. So, when you look at that, I'd far rather be coming up against Lyle Cameron, Joe Rothwell and Asgard than Raskin and Diamondi, because the reality is that I think, like, you know, Rangers kind of won that midfield battle against us a few times last season, and yeah, I'd far rather see that. So if that's who we're coming up against, I'm a bit more confident. I would like to see Engels in there. Like, if he's not going to play in games like this, then we would be as well selling him and just getting a different style of player in there, because these are the types of games I think we kind of brought him in for. As you said, with like Maeda having a bit of help, Engels is not a guy who's like a brilliant progressive passer or whatever. He could maybe play a wee bit deeper in a team where he's got range of passing, but the other thing he's good at is the kind of off the ball run type thing where, you know, maybe, you know, he goes in and he occupies some space, or, you know, scored one of the kind of good goals where the ball goes up sort of right wing and then he makes third man run and then he goes in and he cuts it back. Yeah, I remember the one against Bayern Munich where Dyson nearly scored, like he got in behind. So, you know, I'd like to see Engels in there in midfield, and like I mean we'll talk about Rangers after we went through the Celtic team, right? We'll not go into that just now because I've watched
Got all set up, mate. Got all set up.
And then I don't want to see James Forrest or Yang at any point in the next couple of weeks. I've had enough of watching them over the last couple of weeks. So,
I think you're gonna see them, mate, whether you like it or not.
well, I'm just waiting for the Balikwisha announcement, and the game's on Sunday, so I would have Balikwisha at left wing. I wouldn't play Yang. I would have him in there. I mean, so this season, because I've got him in SCSC, Quinny, right? This season he's been playing more central. But I looked at his heat map from last season, and his heat map was very left wing. So basically, like, he's going to be the same type of option as Jota, I think. And also, if you recall, I mean, obviously it'd be reliant on getting a striker, right? But Jota, when Jota used to play like certain points, Maeda would maybe go right and all that sort of stuff as well. So you could have a situation where you could maybe have Maeda in the left, Balikwisha in the right, vice versa. I play Shin through the middle. I'll come into what we're going to talk about, and you'll understand what I'm saying when we're talking about how Rangers set up and stuff like that. But or even play Kenny if you think that Kenny's the option. You know, Kenny does have a wee bit of movement and stuff there as well. I think Rangers will be quite attacking, so we're not going into play against a low block here. You know, it's not that type of game. So you've got to think about how you want to set up and play against that. And I think that Shin actually, you know, would be the type of guy who'd get a bit of joy with his pace and stuff like that. But I don't want to see Yang, like, you know, maybe we could do a you know, we'll do an intervening drop. We'll go to Birmingham and drop him off, and like Big Adam right down to Swansea and just let them both go. Yeah, I'd get, like, obviously, what's that?
Road trip.
Aye. I was down in Birmingham last year, actually. I was down for the Aston Villa game, so I know where to go and everything. So I'll drop him off. No bother at all. Great place, by the way, and you can invite your girlfriend over and everything, right? We'll drive you down. But I wouldn't start Yang. Honestly, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't start him. He was just been really playing quite bad, and also he didn't really play. I think he played a fair bit of the cup final and everything, and sometimes with those guys, you either say, okay, we're going to move on, or you maybe take them out the limelight a wee bit and let them kind of rebuild their confidence a bit because he's young. Just keep chucking them in, isn't he, really the strategy for a young guy, I don't think. I think you buy Balikwisha, he's been playing for Antwerp, get him in the team. It's just like Rangers did with Antman. You talked about that, right? Antman came in, he signed the day before, they got him just in for the deadline. They played Pilsen, right in the team, bang. And he played pretty well. So sometimes, like, just getting somebody in the team would suit. And I'd like to see Engels in midfield go with like Nygren, Balikwisha, and Maeda or something like that, rather than just keep expecting that, like, definition of insanity. We'll just keep playing James Forrest, and eventually things will improve. Like, you know, fair play to him. His attitude's brilliant. He's been absolutely amazing for Celtic. But you've got to look at it with your own eyes and try and work out whether he's actually good enough anymore. And the manager's crying out for wingers. So I'd give him a day off. Give him the 20 minutes or whatever when we're 2-3-0 up.
I'm with you. I think the change we've seen that I kind of highlighted before, you could certainly start the game with, like, I'll kind of go around the board with you in a wee second, but I think if he does just play Nygren right wing, like we've seen in a couple of occasions now, and start Engels with it, that was basically what gave birth to this kind of thing happening in the match, because Engels was getting a bit deeper and sitting next to McGregor like he often does. And Negren doesn't hang out here for too long by himself. If he's not getting the ball or anyone around him, he's going to come in here and get involved, you know. And I've seen someone in the chat saying he doesn't work hard enough. Honestly, I don't know how, I don't want to say this and sound like I'm being nasty or something. I don't know how you can say that. I don't know how anyone can watch him and say he doesn't work hard enough. The guy, all he does is run about. He's getting the ball back here off of McGregor and Vickers and whatever. He's ending up in the bloody box and finishing stuff. He's not fast. He's not lightning, you know, but definitely moves. So I could see that happening, because again, against that midfield we just seen against Rangers, that would be a pretty cheat code. And yeah, like, do we need the width down that side? It's maybe another conversation to have. I'm not sure. I think Balikwisha gets his debut. I don't think there's any two ways about it, as long as he's announced, because at this point in time he's still not announced, you know. And I don't think there's two ways about him playing in this game or not. But I think if you do start Negren on the right, you're probably going to go back to Dyson on the left. I'd love to see Balikwisha start from the beginning. I think it'd be a great dice roll. I think it'd be a great kind of throwback to like Juninho when he first came in. I'm pretty sure he started on debut as well. It might have been off the bench. I might be remembering it wrong. But I think we'll go back to a centre forward in this one. Now, as I said right when we started this little segment, I've got no idea if Adamida's in the squad, in the building, whether this transfer to Swansea is real or not. You know, Brendan, last week we were talking about it, was trying to get his kid off school. Really, oh, we might need surgery for this one, you know, and all the rest of it. But then, what's that?
It's on the Celtic exchanges that he said his goodbyes at Lennoxtown and he's off.
IDAH?
Yeah.
Confirmed?
Well, it's not confirmed, but basically,
but that's like a thing, yeah.
Yeah, on the Kennedale and stuff, he said his goodbyes. Like 2 or 3 people have said that he's actually said to their players that he's going. So yeah, you can move him out. So
he's chucked it, into. Like, I don't blame him, really. And you mentioned Mikey Johnson earlier. I think the parallel is incredible. I think it's a very similar situation where they just want to be a Celtic player so much they can't. You know, like, he's not got better. You know, you mentioned that before. It was a fantastic point. He has actually got worse. You know, if we'd seen some improvement from him, it would be totally different, even with the goals being as patchy as they are and all the rest of it. But yeah, so if he has if the Swansea interest has came in and it's happened that quick, he's went, get me out of here. Fine. Like, let's just move on and get away from it. And missing that penalty, you know, and the way it's went, if it is true, some of the chat is doubting you. So we'll see if it
well, I'm just seeing what somebody sent me that's on the forums and stuff. I'm not
sure.
That I know that's what's happened or anything. I'm just going on the reports. I mean, he's a bit of a kind of confidence player and stuff like most strikers are. I mean, obviously, you know, even Maeda just now looks as if he's a bit low in confidence. So that type of stuff can happen. But I think for his own good, I think it's probably a good idea for him to move on. And you know, we've been sort of a lot of maybe tongue in cheek or just saying we'll drive the guy down and stuff like that. But it's basically like we want to aspire to see better standards and stuff. And you know, we've got all that money there, and it's just quite frustrating that we can't find that better level of player. And for example, you've mentioned Jacob Briem. Jacob Briem is a way, 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 way better player than Yang is. He's one of the best young players in Holland, right? So even if you just look at the Dutch league and think the Dutch league was rated 5th in all the rankings, it was above League One in France at some point, and this guy is one of the best young players there. That's the type of like player you're getting. That's what I want to see. And Yang's been here so it's 71, 72 appearances or whatever. So he has been given a bit of time or whatever. So sometimes you just got to say, all right, we're just going to sort of move on for there. And you know, Nygren's been a great signing, by the way. We're sort of talking about like recruitment and stuff. Like, he's going to be really good, and he's given us a different option. But the problem is we've just let these other areas just wane. We're just back to we've sold all the starters, or the starters are injured, and we're into all the backups. And then we're like, you know, like everybody's hanging their hands in their head, and you're like, you know, you got to do better than that.
Great point here from Sanfran, you know, just for the way Yamada's kind of been brought into the team and stuff like that. Just thought to throw that into there as well. But yeah, it seems like a report. Feel free in the chat to go and double check that and confirm it and all the rest of it. But yeah, Adamida sounds like he said his goodbyes at Lennoxtown, and some of the chat sympathises with him. I sympathise with him as well. Like, if he's had an exit, you know, if he's had he's had the ability to hit the ejector seat button, James Bond style, and just get out of there, you know, it is getting pretty hot in the kitchen. It's hard to really blame him or hold it against him or slag him for it or anything. That's not what we're doing. I hope that doesn't come across. Again, you know, like we mentioned it earlier, everyone wanted him to sign. You know, everyone wanted the board to sign him after it, at a point. So there's no hard feelings or ill will or anything. It just is what it is. Has not worked. Everyone's kind of felt it coming. And if it is true, I just want to stay one step short of saying it is, because I've yet to see it myself, obviously, and it's early. You know, it just came to something, so, you know. But if it's between Kenny and Shin for the weekend, I'm picking Kenny. He's already found the back of the net, and Rodgers seems to really like him.
I think either of them, style-wise, would probably work a bit better against Rangers as well. So we'll get on to now, because I've watched the games and stuff, and all over the place at the back. And see, when I say all over the place, Quinny, I'm not being sensational. Obviously, they lost 6 goals, right? But all over the place is like understatement of the century. You know, like one of the things they did quite a lot was like the ball would be going up and they would lose the ball. And they weren't like chasing back or anything, and like defensively, just like proper all over the place. I mean, really, really bad from corners as well. So I hope we don't continue with this. We're taking a short corner thing, because they could not defend a cross ball into the box or anything. Really quite bad. They lost 6 goals and Butland was the man of the match. So easily could have been 10. And I'm not joking. I mean, one of the saves he made from Tzolis was like world class. Like, he just got a finger on it, hit the bar, come back out. So in terms of how we're going to line up, you can see how it's happening, because obviously, like, you watched Russell Martin before, watched Southampton or whatever, you know, he wants to play in a certain way and things, which is obviously his style, and he's trying to implement that. But there's a few guys back there who don't really seem like they're actually able to play that way, if that makes sense. Plus, McGoma's just come in. I think actually he looks pretty decent, but they just look all over the place at the back, properly all over the place. So I think in terms of what we want to do, there's 2 different options here. Either we sit in a wee bit and we let them, you know, play about a bit and then try and exploit that, or we go and we press. And I think the best way to do it is to go and press, because they're playing out from the back, and obviously that's something Celtic have been doing for a while, but I'm not really too sure that they've actually got the personnel to do that. And after seeing Tavernier's press conference, I'm not sure he'll start either. It's like I think there's definitely some issues in the dressing room and everything there. Obviously, he's been dropped for the majority of the games. Arns gets sent off, so he's hardly had a big run out, obviously, in Belgium, because he gets sent off after about 10 minutes or something. So there we go. And if that's the team, I'll be delighted not to see Diamande and Raskin, because they think, you know, I'm not saying they're brilliant footballers or whatever, but they do seem to like get in amongst it and sort of win the duels and everything midfield, and cause us problems in those games that we've not really dealt with last season. So
They are at home, you know, so if they do start with this type of midfield with Lyle Cameron, former Dundee midfielder from last year, who played, you know, he did always look all right against us, to be fair to him. This Asgard and Rothwell came into some aplomb, but I don't think Rangers fans are too chuffed with them nowadays. You've got to think at some point they probably take Diamande and Raskin off the bench if they're there, you know, like, just because, you know, they will be at home. And if we did, you know, give them that sort of treatment where we're pressing them, we're getting right in their faces and we're getting mistakes off them to bang in some goals, you can imagine the place empty, and you can imagine it getting quite sour quite quickly, and they'll probably turn to the bench. Maybe they'll be told that they're injured. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. That seems to be the form move at the moment. Sort of thing. Yeah, Raskin said when he got here he was waiting for Chelsea to come and sign him, so that must be who's after him, if he's leaving. Yang wouldn't improve the Kairat team. That's a bit of a take, by the way. Not too far from the mark. So yeah, like I like the prospect of it when you square the teams up against each other, especially with the way it's lined out. The boy Gassama gets a decent write-up. Antman, the chat's kind of saying he's been a bit one-dimensional. Fine. That's always the question mark with some of these guys, is do they make a step up?
Yeah.
In certain ways, but also similar to what we said about Dyson, obviously a big part of football is your team also. So it's kind of one of those ones. Would he be a better player for us kind of thing or whatever. It's blah de blah. Not a conversation for today, but I fancy this kind of move to start with. But when you're talking about pressing, I could see Maeda, because Rodgers doesn't mind starting Maeda through the middle and starting Yang, because that's kind of what he did the other night. We start obviously with Forrest, but I could, or maybe even Forrest. By the way, he likes Forrest on the left. He might do that.
But I would want Balotelli in there. But anyway, that's just me. Like, obviously, we can only talk about who we've got just now. But so I mean, obviously up front, it looks like I think Rangers are getting Majowski, aren't they? So that's not a bad sign. I think it's like 2.6 million. So it seems like not a bad bit of business. Obviously, he scored goals in Scotland and everything before. But front three wise, I mean, Gassama, I would say, is probably the best. Like, you know, he looked like in that Bruges game like one of the guys that, you know, wasn't really out of place. Thought he looked pretty good, and he's a good start to the season. Antman, he's quick and he's got good delivery. Maybe a wee bit one-dimensional, but he'll try and get down in the sort of wide area. I think that actually having Tierney there rather than like Greg Taylor will suit us, because Tierney doesn't come inside as much. So I think that will probably square up okay. And then I'm hoping that's the midfield that we go up against, because I think that that's we can do that. Do you know what I mean? The boy Asgard, he looks terrible. Don't think he's a good player at all. His stats and stuff weren't very good. I just don't think he's very good. And then obviously Njiga's playing in Suter. The boy Fernandez is signed from Peterborough or whatever. They couldn't believe that they got 3.5 million for him. He looked terrific when I seen him. I don't think it was that game he played against St Mirren, because Njiga was suspended, and he looked as if he'd won a competition to play in the team. He was terrible. Aarons was awful the other night as well. I mean, just made a really stupid decision. But again, like, it looks like, you know, Martin's made a bit of a stance with Rascan and with Tavernier, because most of the games they don't start right. And even said, I seen a snippet saying that there's uncertainty over Raskin's future. So obviously they'll just try to cash in on him and just say, right, okay, well, you know, if you're not happy or whatever, then we're going to sell you, and then we'll go from there. But I mean, like, that suits us. I think that does suit us in terms of like what we're playing against, and there's got to be goals in it. You know, I mean, what happens at our end, I don't know, because we've been pretty tight at the back. That's not been our problem, but honestly, see if you can't score against, you'll see, like, you'll be 5 or 10 minutes in, and there'll be some sort of thing will happen in the game, and you'll go, I know what he's meaning here, where like their back four and stuff like that were just all over the place. Seriously, like just absolutely like shambolic stuff type thing, and that's obviously why the fans are wanting Russell. They want him sacked already, right? I mean, they're like basically want him out already. Like, so yeah, it was that type of, like, the goalkeepers having to play a blinder to keep it down to 6. That was 100% accurate. The goalie was man of the match. Incredible.
Yeah. So can I just keep up my chat and everything? I'm looking forward to catching out for that. And sorry, say again.
Sign some forwards. Get them in for Sunday.
If we can play Balikwisha, brilliant. He's ready to start. Obviously, he's right in the way through the season, so it is just the whole, like, getting to know people's names and stuff. That's the only thing you would need to do. But like you say, until I don't know, when he was flying to do his medical, we were in a Champions League qualifier, and I think we've all got this quiet paranoia now that we're not, that some of these that deal just falls through miraculously all of a sudden and whatever. So I'm still a wee bit, I'm not going to count my chickens on it till we see him in the hoops holding a scarf or something like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I look forward to seeing what you've ID'd yourself, McBride. What do you make about the guy Magoma? Is that have you seen that guy much? Got much to say about him?
I thought he was pretty decent, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, he came on loan for Brentford, I think. Like, not really so much against Bruges, but watched one of our games and he kind of got forward. It looks as if he had a wee bit of pace and he got a decent ball into the box and stuff. So I think, like, actually, he'll be okay. I wouldn't say he's, like, you know, much better than Jeffy or anything, in all honesty, but I thought he looked okay. I think the problem is, like, you look at John Suter. Like, John Suter's a good defender, right? I think, like, actually he defends the box pretty well, but he's not necessarily the type of guy you would put into, like, a team, a Russell Martin team. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, like, playing out for the back. So if we press them really effectively, that will set up the game. And there's a comment in there was sort of what we were going to go and beat them, and then they gave us a doing. But it was a different setup. And you talk about like Brendan being one-dimensional. Russell Martin only plays one way. Even before the game against Bruges, he says we've set out really attacking because we need to get a goal to get back into the game, and they just get absolutely gubbed. So, you know, they're going to come out and they're going to try and attack. And actually, if you look at all the games the way they set up, that might actually suit us.
Yeah, I think so. That was the kind of thing that the Neil McCann curveball that came out last year. I know everyone says Barry Ferguson, but the joke here is Neil McCann was the manager at that time, where they went three at the back and they did a bit of a box midfield and they tried some wacky stuff and they tried to rip the script up, as it were. We've seen them doing it against Fenerbahce and thought, oh no, they won't do that against us. And they did, and for some reason we weren't prepared for it. So, like you said, that kind of, we're not going to get that from Russell Martin. He's very much going to be very projectable in that regard. You know how they're going to build out from the back. You know where his routes to go are going to try and be. And, there was some very nice, generous comments earlier on saying that Quinny should have got the job and all that. But the job I went for was first team opposition analysis. So they've definitely, this is a game where you would be earning your wage in that job, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how well prepared we are for how they build up and how to defend them and stuff like that.
You've been rubbish at this, Quinny. You don't watch them.
If Celtic were paying me, I would. If Celtic were paying me, I would watch anything. We're asking for more confirmation on the report that McBride brought us earlier on that he does saying goodbyes at Lennoxtown. We don't know who got the job. Definitely not me, anyway. Check out the video if you've not seen it yet. But yeah, I think where was it? You seen it? It was in one of the forums.
It's like Kerrydale forum and stuff. So anyway, I know a lot of stuff floats about and it's all just reports, but that's the rumor that's floating about just now. So I'm only just passing it on. Actually, it's sad because I do feel bad about taking a bit of joy in that, but I'll be quite pleased when he goes. To be honest, I just don't rate him at all. Like I just don't think. I just don't think he's that good, and I scored a good amount of goals last season. But seen loads of names in the chat, Kieran Bowie and stuff like that. Like, I think he'd sign Simon Murray from Dundee or whatever. He'd score 15 goals from us. Like just saying, oh, he scored 15 goals for Celtic. Like I don't think it's a kind of underhand compliment, isn't it? You stick you up front for Celtic, you'd probably get 10 goals in a season, Quinny. I mean, come on, like the amount of chances we create, like honestly, like I'd rather one of the guys who linked with the Bhoys Samani at Lorient and he's like 2 million or something. We're linked with him. He looks pretty good actually. He was pretty good last season in League Two, and I'd maybe just rather see somebody like that. And then also, if you buy somebody at 2 million, scores 15 goals, people say that's all right, but like we're all looking at it going, yeah, he should be scoring 30 goals or whatever. On what basis? Just because we've spent loads of money for him? It's like the price tag thing's just weighed on him. It happens a bit with Engels, I think, as well. And yeah, it's probably better just to move on and just do something different. So,
if this is the team we go with, McBride, what's the score prediction?
I'll go 3-0 Celtic.
3-0. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think like Rangers have actually got some good attacking players, but like if we go with that sort of team and we manage to press them and stuff like that, then I'd like to see Balotelli start, but I think like Nygren gets a bit of space and things, like I think we'll score a few goals. I just can't. I've watched like 4 or 5 Rangers games now, Quinny, and I can't see if we go there and they keep a clean sheet, then jury's out in Brendan Rodgers, honestly.
Fair. I love the clean sheet for us. We've been Kasper Schmeichel's catching some strays at the moment, and fair enough, he's not exactly at the peak of his career at the moment at the age of 40 or whatever he is, but since he's been in Celtic, we've been the big green clean sheet machine at times, and I can see us keeping them out for sure if we're right up for it and full focus. The only thing that always stops me from thinking and wanting and projecting a clean sheet, especially at Mordor, is refs and penalties and bloody blah random crap. So if you think we'll score 3, I'm normally the optimistic one. I'm not feel. I don't know if IDAH is gone and Balikwisha comes in, there might be a wee kind of change, turn of the page moment. Maybe spirits are lifted a wee bit. Maybe that's behind us. Move forward. Maybe we go back to being a little bit of our old selves in that way. I'm not sure there's 3 goals in this team, but you did say how bad they were, so I'm trying to weigh that up. I'm going to go with 2-0. I'm going to go with 2-0. I'm close to 3-0. You're close to pushing me there, but I'm going to go with 2.
They're really bad. I mean, honestly, bear in mind here that we're not just talking about getting bashed up by Bruges. Rangers not won a game in the league yet, so
yeah, that
pretty
is true.
bad. They're pretty bad, right? So, maybe they'll turn up on Sunday. I don't know. Like sometimes that happens, and they're up for it and all that. But you were talking about the toxic stuff and everything. See if we get a goal early on Sunday. I'm telling you, it'll it goes the complete opposite way, and I think it could be they're undefeated in the league. It's big startless. They want Russell Martin out already. They've lost the fans. The transfer window's not even finished yet. It's not even at the end of the transfer window. So, then they're saying that he's lost the fans, lost the dressing room, everything. I mean, like they're in proper turmoil. We just need to go and do our job, and we struggle against the low block and stuff like that. So I think there'll be a wee bit more space, and then we just need to see how that works out. That's how I think it'll go.
You've convinced me to go to 3. Right, 3-0 for me. 3.
I'll go 4 then.
4. Okay.
I'll go 4. I will score a few goals. Honestly, really think we will.
I don't know about this clean sheet anymore. I'm still tossing and turning on it. But yeah, okay. Man of the match shouts, or is it new signing Balikwisha off the bench that gets all the headlines? Man of the match here. We're talking about the guy that we think about after the game. Maybe not the actual man of the match, but the guy that ran the show, made the difference, as it were. Could it be Balikwisha, superstar, new signing, or I've been waiting for Itate to really rinse a game like this for a while. Didn't really do it Tuesday, obviously, so I'm not too confident on him. Negren's been the one that's been cooking. Negren's been the chef this year so far. It's been, he's been on the gas, hasn't he? So that's a tough one. It's hard to look past Negren. But yeah, I'm not actually. If IDAH isn't playing, if all this stuff is true, Kenny or Yamada, whoever plays up front, they score a goal or two. They'll look like a hero really quickly. I'm going to go with Kenny. I'm just going to say Kenny, but it could be Shin.
I'm going by IDAH. Look really uncomfortable at playing out for the back, so I think I'm hoping that's the way we'll play, and I think it is the way we'll play because that's generally how we set up. I think he'll get a bit of joy with the press, and that will start creating some chances from the front. So go with Dyson. He's not been playing well, but he's seen with that purple patch last season that if he has a purple patch, then he is quite effective, and he's had some really good moments. Ibrox as well, so I'd like to see him just get that confidence back and stuff. So I'll go with Dyson.
Nice, love it. If any of you have watched this after we've been live, score predictions, man of the match shouts in the comment section as ever. Thanks to everyone that's been here in the live chat. We've smashed through 100 likes with you guys needing no prompts at all. Absolute heroes and legends. Love to see all the support we've got here on the channel. If you are going to the game, is there away tickets for this? If you're going to the game, travel safe. Is there away tickets? There must be. I think there is, isn't there? If you're going to the game, yeah, travel safe to Mordor. Stay out of trouble. Good luck. Hope you enjoy the time. And hope it's a good one for us all to lift our spirits, and hopefully we've got some signings and we can try and just move forward without looking back too much and just deal with it one day at a time, I suppose. McBride, it's been an absolute pleasure as always, my man.
Sack the board. Good night.
Hail, hail, everyone.
Hail, hail.